Well, hey there, Internet. It's David, and I'm here with episode 4 of the Hearing Love Devotional series, which is a focus on chapter 2 in the Hearing Love book that is not out yet as I record and release this video. I'm shooting for a December release date. I'm hoping for December 1st, and everyone who's been asking about signed copies, we'll figure that out. We'll make that happen. I don't know the particulars yet, but we'll get that done. For this episode, I'm going to be in Matthew 26 just for a few moments with you. And in this focus on chapter 2, I really want to look at the work that love is considered to be from heaven's perspective. And so last episode and in chapter 1, I really just wanted to stir us to begin to break up the hard ground of our hearts and just consider some things from eternity's perspective to set us in a posture to really begin to consider the seriousness and the weight of the first commandment lifestyle, and that we would not really see it as an option at all. One of the things that usually comes up in directing us to the first commandment is well, there's work to be done. We got to do the Great Commission. We got to do all these things. So in chapter 2, the title is The Work and the Impact of Love. And so I want to focus in, and I use Mary of Bethany in the book, and so I'll just use one of her examples here in Matthew 26. But I use Mary of Bethany in the book to kind of springboard, the Lord delights in this lifestyle, and begin to unpack what heaven calls a first commandment lifestyle, and even the impact, the practical, real-life impact that a lover carries in this life now and in the age to come. And so as the questions come up of, well, there's work to be done. Yes, there's work to be done. But consider your first works. This is why Jesus comes to the church of Ephesus and says, you've left your first love. Repent, do the first works that you did before. And so the first works is a call back to the first commandment lifestyle, to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. In chapter 2, I just kind of dig in again through Mary's example of just the work and the impact that love has in this life again and in the age to come. And Matthew 26 is a beautiful chapter. I use this example and some words from Matthew 26, but I don't specifically take up Matthew 26 in chapter 2, so I'm going to do it here in the devotional with you. It says in verse 6 that when Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, a woman came in having an alabaster flask of very costly fragrant oil, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when his disciples saw it, they were indignant, and they said, "Why this waste? For this fragrant oil might have been sold for much and given to the poor." And so that phrase, why this waste? As soon as we start pushing on the first commandment lifestyle and the call to slow down, to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, the discipline and the details and the grace and the beauty of that, as soon as we start presenting these things and pushing on these things, there's always just this rise out of mostly churchy people of, why this waste? There's work to be done. We got to do the Great Commission. We have this program and we need volunteers over here. Why this waste? Of people who can actually say no to good things to give themselves to the one thing necessary that Jesus called it in Luke 10 that I talk about in the book. But to counter that, the disciples are saying, again, why this waste? But when Jesus was aware of it, he's like, why do you trouble this woman? And get a load of this, for she has done a good work for me. The poor you always have with you, but me you don't always have. In pouring this fragrant oil out on my body, she did it for my burial. Assuredly, I say to you, get a load of this one. Wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will be told as a memorial to her. Why? Because the gospel is to have that effect of that Mary of Bethany lifestyle of wasting it all at the feet of Jesus. It was her heart posture that he was validating, and not just saying she did a good thing by taking time out from her work to be with me. He actually called what she was doing a work in itself, The disciples were saying, "Why this waste?" And he's saying, "Leave her alone. She's done a good work for me." And in fact, as you take the gospel of the kingdom out, everywhere the kingdom is preached, everywhere the gospel is preached, this story will be told as a memorial, not just because it was a cute lady that did this cute little thing while you guys are doing the real work, but actually your real work is supposed to raise up this type of heart. And so as we press forward to the coming of Christ on the planet, Malachi 1:11 says that from the rising of the sun to its going down, that his name, the Lord's name, will be great in all the nations, and in every place incense will be offered up to heaven. And we know that incense is the prayers of the saints. And so it's that heart posture that is going to fuel that incense as Mary of Bethany goes with the gospel as the Great Commission is preached. And this is why people like John Piper say missions exist, because worship does not. In his book, Let the Nations Be Glad. And so yet again, the call of like what the purpose of missions is for, and putting an eternal horizon back on the work of missions to know like, hey, we're going so these people can hear the gospel and that they can be transformed into a worshiping people and transform their community into a worshiping community. And then when they go out, their sole purpose in preaching the gospel is to raise up worship. And that incense in all these places would rise to the throne from the rising of the sun to its setting. And so there's other things in the chapter that I cover, but for this devotional, I really want to take away, like, have you considered, as we break up the fallow ground, kind of like in an introductory way in the last episode, have you considered like the work of love is work? Like Jesus calls it work. And so while men from the outside misunderstand the role of love and the work of love, and they point their fingers and begin to say, that's waste, they're wasting their life, this is wasting away, this has got to be done. But beloved, again, we just wear people out so much because we think the kingdom is all the work that has to be done. We think it's in raising up good leaders to be better leaders so that we can do more work. We have this like Western retail mentality when it comes to these things, and oftentimes like we measure success in the same way that the Walmart down the street measures success, on return customers and how fast does stuff move off the shelf, and how many people that we had walk into the store today, and of the people that came into the store, like how many walked away with something that they bought, and how much stuff did they buy, and did they buy the impulse items. And it's like we have this system of metrics of how we judge success, and it's infiltrated the church, and it ought not be, because now we've turned our back on love and we focus on raising up leaders who can do the work instead of lovers that can do the one thing necessary. And so in chapter 2 and in this devotional, I just want you guys again to begin to ask yourself, have you considered that the first commandment is work? That it's real labor, it's a real work, and Jesus calls it a good work. And he predestined us, it says in Ephesians, for good works, that we should walk in them. And then in Titus says that grace comes to teach us to deny ungodliness, to live soberly and righteously in this present age, and ultimately that we would be a people zealous for good works. And beloved, I believe this is the foundation of our good work. So chapter 2 is just kind of a part 2 of sorts into our introductory thoughts of break up your fallow ground and consider love is work. And with that heart posture, realizing you're doing a good thing, you're not wasting your time, the Lord delights in these things. But then the twofold reality on the back end as we get into the rest of the book, knowing that you will put effort and discipline and work into this thing called love. It's not going to come to you in a prayer line or just a zap from heaven. It's going to come as you discipline yourself to really work for these things, just like we do in our interpersonal relationships, and just like we do especially in marriage. How many of you have heard like marriage is spelled W-O-R-K? It's the same thing with the Lord, and it's not a presumption on doing what Jesus did and paying for our access to the Lord, but now that we've been given access, like what do you do with it? Do you discipline yourself to draw near? So again, the twofold work of love, of realizing you're not wasting your time, it's a good work, and that there will be effort applied by you to lay a hold of these things to build your own personal history with the Lord. It's okay. It's not legalism, and we'll get into these things and pick them apart in greater detail in the book. But that is all for now. Thank you guys for watching episode 4 on the work and impact of love. And then as a reminder, if you enjoy the work of this channel, you can support my family and I in the full-time ministry over on our Patreon page. And if you enjoy the music that plays behind all my tracks, it's all available for download at forloveoftheword.bandcamp.com, and both those links will be in the description. And I will see you guys later. Bye.